The training exercises in Louisiana are abruptly canceled. Leave is permanently revoked across North Carolina. Thousands of Marines are quietly diverted to the Middle East. The White House maintains that no official decision has been made regarding ground troops. But the military does not operate on press briefings. It operates on readiness. And right now, the ultimate American hammer is being primed to drop into the most hostile environment on Earth. The United States is preparing for the terrifying reality that airstrikes are simply not enough to neutralize a catastrophic threat. If the material moves, the paratroopers follow. This is Lawrence reporting. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. The baseline reality of global conflict is absolute chaos. When a dictator seizes a vital waterway, when an embassy is breached, when a regime buries weapons of mass destruction under 80 meters of solid rock, the United States does not send a strongly worded letter. It sends the 82nd Airborne Division. Constituted in 1917, they are the beating heart of the IRF, the Immediate Response Force. They are not a standard infantry unit. They are an 18,000-man wrecking ball stationed at Fort Liberty, ready to deploy anywhere on the planet in under 18 hours. But the real story begins years earlier, long before the modern C-17 cargo planes and satellite uplinks. It was 1944. The skies over Normandy were choked with anti-aircraft fire. The 82nd dropped into the absolute darkness of occupied France, bleeding and fighting to sever German supply lines before the beach landings even began. They were scattered, they were outgunned, but they forged a culture of absolute self-reliance. When a paratrooper drops behind enemy lines and is completely surrounded, that is not a tactical trap. That is their preferred operating environment. They proved it in the suffocating jungles of Vietnam. They proved it in the burning sands of Iraq. They proved it in the treacherous, frozen mountains of Afghanistan. As warfare modernized, critics questioned the necessity of the parachute assault. With global adversaries building massive missile defense umbrellas, some defense analysts called the airborne infantry archaic. But the 82nd adapted. They proved that blinding speed is the ultimate weapon. In January of 2020, when the American embassy in Baghdad was suddenly violently attacked by militia forces, the Pentagon triggered the Immediate Response Force. The logistical reality of that mobilization is staggering. Sirens echoed across the North Carolina base in the dead of night. Within hours, thousands of paratroopers were drawing weapons, loading heavy equipment into aircraft, and pushing toward the runway. The 1st Brigade combat team was wheels up before the smoke over the embassy even cleared. They do not wait for backup. They are the backup. And this is where everything changed. The current geopolitical landscape in the Middle East is flashing red. We are witnessing the tactical indicators of an imminent, massive deployment. The most glaring red flag is the sudden operational shift at home. Command personnel for the 82nd Airborne were ordered to remain at their home base instead of conducting a massive joint readiness exercise. You do not ground your primary response force unless you expect the geopolitical alarm to ring. Simultaneously, the Pentagon is holding highly classified logistical meetings on the brutal realities of a ground operation. They are drafting specific frameworks on how to detain and where to send captured Iranian soldiers and paramilitary operatives. You do not build logistical networks for prisoners of war unless you are planning a ground invasion. To support this, a massive naval staging is already underway. Thousands of Marines, including the 31st and 11th Marine Expeditionary Units, alongside multiple heavily armed warships, have been rapidly diverted ahead of schedule to coordinate directly with the Army. But will the United States actually escalate to boots on the ground? In reality, the Pentagon is deeply averse to a full-scale ground invasion of Iran. Iran is not Iraq. It is a massive mountainous fortress. It holds a heavily armed population and a military designed specifically for asymmetrical warfare. A full occupation is highly unlikely. However, A targeted ground insertion becomes tactically unavoidable if certain red lines are crossed. If deployed, their first primary conventional mission is the economic survival of the globe, securing the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's total oil supply flows through this narrow maritime choke point. If Iran successfully closes it, the global economy faces instant devastation. Markets would crash. Supply chains would completely freeze. Airstrikes alone cannot pry this strait open. It requires paratroopers dropping in to physically neutralize coastal missile batteries, dismantle swarm-capable fast boat bases, and secure massive mine stockpiles hidden in coastal caves. The second conventional mission is seizing critical infrastructure to create a catastrophic bargaining chip. The division could be utilized to capture Kharg Island. This small maritime hub is the absolute economic lifeline of the regime, responsible for roughly 90% of all Iranian crude oil exports. Dropping a brigade of paratroopers to lock down the island effectively cuts the financial throat of the nation in a single night. Furthermore, the paratroopers would establish massive bridgeheads. They would secure remote landing zones directly on Iranian soil, holding off counterattacks to pave the way for a much larger, phased joint operation involving heavy armor and mechanized infantry. But what happens next shocked analysts. The mission parameters escalate far beyond conventional targets. The ultimate nightmare scenario is a literal race against the nuclear clock. Airstrikes have pounded the Iranian nuclear infrastructure, but dropping bunker busters is not enough to completely eliminate the threat. Standoff weapons like cruise missiles cannot secure loose nuclear material. If the objective requires physical confiscation, boots on the ground are the only option. The administration is planning what could become the largest special forces operation in modern military history. Their objective is physically ripping 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium out of the rubble. Out of all the elite units available, is the 82nd Airborne the most likely to be sent in? Yes, but they would not go in alone. They act as the massive security blanket for a highly synchronized joint operation. The assault on a nuclear facility is divided into three brutal layers. The tip of the spear is JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command. Specifically, Delta Force or SEAL Team 6 would be the ones actually blowing the vault doors and seizing the radioactive material. The inner perimeter belongs to the 75th Ranger Regiment. They would drop in simultaneously to seize the immediate compound and eliminate guards in close quarters combat. The outer perimeter belongs strictly to the 82nd Airborne. They are the only division-sized element in the United States military capable of dropping thousands of paratroopers anywhere on Earth in 18 hours. They would jump in to establish a massive, multi-mile perimeter around the Rangers and JSOC. Their sole purpose is holding off the Iranian Revolutionary Guard heavy armor and reinforcements so the specialized teams can work. Planners are focusing on three critical targets: Isfahan, a heavily fortified uranium conversion facility; Fordow, an impenetrable fortress built under 80 meters of solid rock designed specifically to enrich uranium to near weapons-grade purity; and Natanz, the sprawling central hub of the entire enrichment program. Upward of 1,000 American personnel would need to lock down the perimeter under heavy ballistic missile fire, while combat engineers dig through tons of shattered concrete and lethal booby traps. But the intelligence community has a terrifying blind spot. The assumption is that the material is buried securely where it was last tracked. But satellite imagery paints a far more paranoid picture. In the weeks leading up to the recent military strikes, high-resolution satellites captured a massive logistical operation across the nuclear complex. Convoys of dump trucks and heavy engineering equipment were not just moving Earth. They were frantically sealing the tunnel entrances at Isfahan with huge piles of dirt and concrete. Near Natanz, trucks were rushing to fortify a massive new underground labyrinth known to intelligence agencies as Pickaxe Mountain. The regime knew the American hammer was falling. Defense analysts admit a chilling possibility. Up to half of the highly enriched stockpile could have been quietly moved to an entirely clandestine facility before the first bomb ever dropped. The terrifying reality is that a crude nuclear device, built from 60% enriched uranium, is small enough to fit in the back of a standard commercial delivery truck. If the material is already moving, the 82nd Airborne is not jumping into a static facility. They are jumping into a lethal shell game across a country the size of Alaska. High casualties are explicitly expected within the first 4 weeks of the operation. When the objective is preventing a nuclear breakout, the military relies on overwhelming, uncompromising force to secure the perimeter. If that material goes missing, the green light turns on. The sky fills with maroon berets, and the world holds its breath. Tell us what you think of this potential tactical deployment in the comments below. Thanks for watching.